just felt Sukuna's presence. What the hell is happening in Shibuya?
I knew there was a difference in our strength, but not to such a great extent.
The moonlight's illumination makes it easier to see how pathetic you are. Come now, you mustn't stop trying. I'll play with you again and again until I tire of this. 領域展開.
Sukuna stood on cracked earth, ash swirling on the wind, the horizon lined with the skeletons of shattered citadels. This world was a graveyard, scarred by some cataclysmic wound. Alien husks sprawled across the red dunes, their titanic bodies torn apart, blood hardened into tar. Among them lay the wreckage of great war machines, rusting tanks, and the mangled remains of crimson giants. Sukuna inhaled deeply, the stench of blood and oil mixing with the faint tang of ozone. His grin faltered for the first time in centuries. The last thing he remembered was Shibuya. Jogo's body crumbling, charred and broken, the city burning, humans screaming, curses scattering like rats. His throne of slaughter had been secure, his playground overflowing with prey. And now, he looked around slowly. No skyscrapers, no familiar scent of Shibuya's streets, soaked in terror and smoke. Instead, an alien sky stretched overhead. Two pale moons glaring like blind eyes through drifting clouds of ash. The very air tasted wrong. Old, heavy, and laced with something ancient. Sukuna tilted his head, confusion bleeding into amusement. "Well now," he murmured, voice a rasping purr. "This isn't Shibuya." He crouched low, dragging clawed fingers through the cracked soil, bringing the grit to his tongue. It tasted bitter and metallic, and the soil was soaked in blood that was not his own. His grin returned, sharp and feral. "This world reeks of death," he said to no one in particular. The sound of armored boots thundered through the red waste. From the drifting haze, crimson giants emerged, their forms towering and broad, reefed in dusk and smoke. Each bore upon their chests the golden sigil of a two-headed eagle. In their gauntleted hands, they carried weapons of terrifying design. Massive black-hulled guns and colossal swords, lined with teeth hungry for flesh. Their leaders stepped forward, weapon raising, Vox Grill crackling to life. "Halt, civilian. You stand within the realm of the blood." He never finished the sentence. In a blur too fast for mortal eyes, Sukuna was already upon him. Claws clamped tight around the giant's throat. The Blood Angel's weapon clattered to the rubble as the Cursed King lifted him effortlessly from the ground. Crimson armor groaning under the crushing grip. Sukuna smiled, sharp teeth glinting. "Civilian? You insects are amusing, calling me that. Do you even know who stands before you?" With a sickening crack, the warrior's helmet buckled under the pressure, and the waist was filled with the sound of steel grinding and bone snapping. He tilted his head, studying the remaining 9 warriors with the same interest a predator gives a herd of cattle. "Well, entertain me." The Marines opened fire in unison. "For the Emperor!" they bellowed. Explosive bolts streaked through the air, detonating in thunderclaps as they tore into his flesh. An arm vanished in a spray of gore, half his chest obliterated, ribcage utterly shattered. A smirk ran across Sukuna's face. "Emperor?" he echoed, amusement dripping from the word. "And who might that be? Shall I rip his name from your lips too?" Even as he spoke, bone slid back into place. Muscle knotted itself whole, blood hissed and evaporated as his body knitted to perfection in seconds. The Red Angels faltered. "What sorcery is this?" "Blasphemer," one spat, his Vox warped voice venomous. "You stand upon holy ground, defiled by Xenos. You will fall as they did." Sukuna laughed. "Holy ground? I see only rubble and corpses, and soon more." both. He flicked his wrists. Invisible death ripped through the battlefield. Dismantle. The Marines didn't even realize they were dead. They fell apart in chunks, their blessed armor sliced as if they were paper, their bodies unraveling before their minds could register the pain. The squad was gone in seconds, only scraps of ceramite remained. Sukuna exhaled, clearly disappointed. Pathetic. Is this all this Emperor breeds? Cattle in pretty armor? The answer came in the form of thunder. From the wasteland to the east, a contemptor dreadnought advanced. A walking tomb of war, its sarcophagus sealed with the bones of a fallen hero. Claws crackled with power. Bolters already tracking. Its pilot roared with binary fury. Target acquired, its distorted voice boomed. For the Emperor, for Sanguinius. Sukuna observed the dreadnought, clearly intrigued. Finally, something with bite. Come, show me, Metal Man. The dreadnought opened fire. Heavy shells turned the ground into molten glass. Missiles shrieked, engulfing the area in firestorms. Sukuna blurred through the inferno, carving dozens of dismantles into its armored frame. Invisible strikes tore gouges out of its adamantium shell. Still it advanced, still it struck. A massive claw swung and connected. The blow sent Sukuna hurling through the air. He smashed through the ruins of a fortress, pulverizing stone, metal, and bone. Dust rose in a choking cloud. The dreadnought stalked forward, claws dripping in molten sparks. Sukuna laughed, standing amid rubble, chest caved in, bones splintered, his flesh once again reknitted until perfection returned. Yes, that's more like it. A toy with teeth. You'll do nicely as a warm-up. He vanished. The machine faltered as more slashes carved its joints, plates, and hinges. Dozens, hundreds of invisible cuts ripped its body apart. Armor screamed, hydraulics ruptured, black oil spraying. In seconds, the mighty sarcophagus was a ruin. Sukuna stood upon its smoking carcass, one hand plunged into its chest. With a grunt, he ripped the corpse from within. The ancient, preserved body of a Blood Angel hero dragged out like a trophy. The Marine's remains crumbled to dust in his grasp. Sukuna tossed it aside, sneering. That's all? So that's what you are? Dead men snuffed into machines? How pitiful. The battlefield fell silent. Smoke curled from the shattered ruins, mingling with the stench of oil, ozone, and burned flesh. Sukuna strode deeper into the barren red wasteland, surveying the carnage with idle curiosity. The ground was littered with alien husks, split open like rotten fruit. He crouched beside one, digging clawed fingers into its cracked corpse. The shell resisted, harder than steel, but broke under his grip. Monsters fought here, Sukuna muttered, half to himself. Not curses, not humans. Something different. He licked his fingers, tasting the residue, and spat with a chuckle. Dead and stale. Whoever killed you did my work for me. He wandered even longer through the ruins, stepping over more corpses and shattered statues of winged men cast in gold. A toppled column bore the inscription, Sanguinius protects. He howled with laughter. Protect you from what? His voice carrying across the empty plain. You're all corpses. Sukuna paused atop a rise of ash, gazing across the horizon. A red world gutted by a war he had not waged. The wasteland stretched endlessly, but in the distance a spire rose above the horizon. Not natural stone, but carved marble, catching Baal's cruel sun. Sukuna's 4 eyes narrowed. He stalked towards the spire, the shattered ruins crunching beneath his bare feet. As he climbed the ridge, he saw it fully. The Arx Angelicum, fortress monastery of the Blood Angels, battered but unbroken. Its towers rose like spears of ivory and steel. Statues of the so-called Sanguinius gazed out with wings spread wide, his many faces worn by centuries of devotion. At the great entrance sat a courtyard that was filled with crimson warriors, their armor gleaming despite the scars of battle. Sukuna chuckled. Now this is interesting. At their center walked a golden angel. His armor blazed like molten gold, his face hidden behind a death mask. From his shoulders hung a banner of black and red, the sigil of the Blood Angels burning proudly upon his chest. After a brief moment of observing his next prey, Sukuna appeared before them. The warriors raised their weapons in unison, clearly surprised. Their swords shimmered with power, and Dante's axe burned like a miniature sun. Abomination! Dante's voice rang across the courtyard, heavy with age and sorrow, clearly disturbed by Sukuna's 4 eyes and demonic appearance. You are not human. You so desecrate these hollow grounds. Who? What are you? Sukuna met Dante's gaze. Finally, Sukuna sneered, spreading his arms as though the stage was his. Someone with enough spine to ask. Remember the name, little angel? Ryomen Sukuna, king of curses. Dante's grip tightened on his axe. I am Lord Commander of the Blood Angels, a son of Sanguinius and the defender of the Emperor's will, and you will die by my hand. Sukuna's grin cut like a blade. The Emperor again? Your brothers screamed his name as they tore them apart. Who is he? This corpse king you grovel to? A god? A savior? Or just another excuse for weaklings to die behind? He is mankind's savior, one of the Marines shouted. The master of humanity. You dare profane his name with your tongue, heretic? Sukuna laughed so hard, it echoed across the monastery's walls. Master of humanity? Huh. Then why is your world a corpse? Why are you standing in ash, clutching the scraps of glory? The Space Marines roared as one, the rage bound by discipline, but brimming with fury. Dante raised his axe, pointing it directly at Sukuna. Your blasphemy ends here. For Sanguinius! For the Emperor! The others thundered, voices shaking the stones. Sukuna's body tensed, curse energy flaring into the air, scarlet sparks swirling like an infernal storm. His grin returned, hungry and feral. Good, he whispered. Now come die for him. The courtyard of the Arx Angelicum was scarred beyond belief. Statues of great heroes were toppled, their marble faces cracked by the war that had struck Baal and her moons. The floor was a mosaic of red stone, much of it scarred, some of it permanently stained black from the blood of the slain Xenos. But braziers still burned, despite the devastation, filling the air with incense to mask the stench of charred blood. It was here that angels met a demon. The Blood Angels launched forward in perfect formation. Their swords sang as they swept down at Sukuna, arcs of light searing through the gloom. But Sukuna moved like a storm, his arms blurring. One power sword he caught between clawed fingers, twisting it until the half splintered, and the wielder's face was slammed into the ground, helmet cracking like porcelain glass. Another Blood Angel thrust at him, the blade biting into his flesh, and Sukuna only grinned wider, letting the weapon sink deeper before ripping it sideways. Blood sprayed in an arc across the sacred stones, painting the face of a statue. Pathetic, Sukuna roared, his voice rolling across the wasteland. Another crimson giant swung low, only for Sukuna to kick him in the chest hard enough to implode his ribcage. The sound like a thunderclap. Another dove from above, jetpack flaring like a comet, but Sukuna caught him mid-flight, fingers closing around his throat. With a jerk, he tore the warrior in half, gore and ceramite raining down on his brothers. Still they came. For Sanguinius, they cried, blades flashing. For the Emperor! Sukuna twisted through the ranks, carving his dismantled slashes into reality itself. Invisible blades ripped through armor, bisecting warriors where they stood. He blitzed through them, a blur of bloods and claws, laughing as heads toppled from armored shoulders. He tore one guard's arm clean off and beat another to death with it. Their blood pooled at his feet, the crimson stone drank deep, and still they fought. Their voices now shook with rage and grief. You will not defile this ground, monster, one shouted, plunging his chainsword through Sukuna's chest. For a moment, it seemed the giant had struck true. Sukuna looked down, chuckled, then twisted his body, shattering the blade inside him, fragments spraying like shrapnel. His claw lashed out, tearing the warrior's faceplate away, exposing the pale, scarred expression beneath. Sukuna leaned closer. Your god isn't watching, he hissed. Then he crushed the Space Marine's skull like a fruit. A golden arc split the air. Dante descended. The Lord Commander's axe cleaved down, wreathed in burning light. Sukuna barely twisted aside, the edge scything a trench into the stone, molten sparks bursting like fireworks. Dante moved with the fury of centuries, his strikes precise and terrible, each blow carrying the weight of a chapter's grief. "You dare desecrate Baal, beast!" Dante thundered, his voice shaking the very monastery. "By Sanguinius, I will end you!" Sukuna chuckled even more, spinning around him, claws scraping across the axe's shaft, sparks flying. "End me?" He struck, a dozen dismantle slashes converging, carving through the ground, statues, and even the very air. Dante's jump pack roared, launching him skyward just before the invisible blades ripped apart the courtyard like paper, marble angels crumbling into dust. The last of the Red Warriors rallied around him. Their weapons raised, they formed a crimson phalanx before their lord. Sukuna spread his arms wide, blood soaking his body, his grin feral and radiant. "Yes, yes! Call for your corpse god, let him come!" Dante stood firm. "Brothers," Dante growled, "we do not falter. We are the sons of Sanguinius. We will die before we yield." The Blood Angels roared as one, voices thunderous, shaking the walls of their monastery. "For the Emperor!" And Sukuna leapt in response, claws flashing even more, his storm of slashes descending upon them. The courtyard of angels became a pit of carnage. Sukuna stood amid the slaughter, claws dripping, chest raising and falling with effortless breaths. Around him, the crimson armored forms of this world's warriors lay scattered, eviscerated, decapitated, or reduced to nothing more than charred ceramite and gore. And in the center of the ruined courtyard, battered and bloodied and staggering, stood one man, Dante. Every inch of his once pristine armor was scorched, cracked, and smeared with the blood of his brothers. His axe was chipped and dulled, the flames in his jump pack sputtered from impact after impact. Around him, the silence of death reigned. The war cries, the righteous shouts of the Blood Angels, the screams of fury all gone. Only Dante remained, the last son of Sanguinius. Sukuna eyed the last Blood Angel. "Ah, the last one. Alone at last. All your little angels gone. You fought bravely, but what is left of your pride now? Nothing but yourself." Dante's chest roared and fell, a labored rhythm under the bruised armor. But his eyes, burning with exhaustion, grief, and unyielding defiance, met Sukuna's without flinching. Dante's grip tightened on his axe. "I will not falter. I will stand. Even if I die, the Blood Angels will endure." Sukuna crouched slightly, circling him like a predator inspecting its prey. How noble. How deliciously foolish. Dante's jaw set, a single shallow breath, the weight of centuries pressing down on his shoulders, readying himself for the final inevitable clash. "Good. Show me how the last angel bleeds." And with that, the King of Curses lunged forward, talons slashing through the air. Dante met him head on, his axe sweeping in a blazing arc, its radiant edge clashing with Sukuna's claws. Sparks and shard of stone erupted with each strike, the shockwaves tearing through the remnants of the courtyard. But Sukuna was faster, moving in a blur, his curse energy slicing through the air. He struck Dante's chestplate again and again. Armor buckled, ceramite shattered, his flesh revealed underneath, a spray of blood and gore marking each impact. Dante countered, swinging wildly, a desperate fury propelling every movement. But each strike was deflected or absorbed by the disgraced one. Finally, Sukuna's clawed hands closed around Dante's mask, the centuries-old death mask of Sanguinius, and with a violent twist, tore it from his face. The golden face mask shattered, revealing the true warrior beneath, aged, scarred, and exhausted. Sukuna leaned closer, four eyes scanning the revealed face. With the mask gone, the weight of centuries of the blood of his fallen kin pressed on the Lord Commander. "Ah, this is what you hide beneath your little angel costume," Sukuna murmured, claws tracing across the cracked ceramite and flesh. "Not a god, not a king, just an old man." Dante coughed, blood trickling from the corners of his mouth, but his eyes remained locked with Sukuna's. "A man is enough," he rasped. Summoning the last of his strength, he swung his axe in one final arc, but Sukuna met it, slicing through the shaft and snapping it in two. The blow sent Dante sprawling to the stone floor, blood pooling beneath him. Sukuna crouched, placing a hand on Dante's chest. The Lord Commander's breath was ragged, life flickering at the edge of oblivion. Sukuna stood above him as he observed something almost imperceivable. A slight slackening of Dante's features, a whisper of release. The tension in the aged face softened, and for a fleeting heartbeat, Sukuna saw a mark of relief in Dante's eyes, as if the endless burden of living had finally eased. With a swift motion, his claws sliced cleanly through bone and armor. Dante's life ended, the body going still. Sukuna rose, chest heaving slightly from the thrill, stepping over the ruin of the corpses he had made. Around him, the courtyard was silent, save for the faint crackle of dying fires and the settling of dust. He was victorious. Excitement trembled through his body. What else did this world have? What else could he bring to ruin? Almost as if the world was answering his question, a thick, unnatural fog settled over the King of Curses. Dust, ash, and the remnants of shattered stone and scorched armor swirled in a red-tinged haze. Sukuna's four eyes narrowed, claws flexing, his grin sharp and eager. Yet even he could not pierce the mist. It swallowed the ruined courtyard, hiding movement, hiding danger. Slowly, the fog began to lift, curling and twisting like a living thing. From it, a figure emerged, immense, towering nearly twice the height of a man, cloaked in gleaming green armor that drank in the dying light of Baal's crimson sun. His gaze was sharp, burning with unwavering purpose. In his left hand, a golden shield etched with centuries of victory. In his right hand, a pale sword that hummed with inevitable judgment. For a long moment, he simply stood, surveying the carnage. His eyes lingered on the shattered remnants of the Red Warriors, then fell upon the still form of Dante, the Lord Commander. He paused, voice low and steady, edged with grief that cut through the ruin. Dante, chapter master of the Blood Angels, fallen by your hand. Sukuna flexed his limbs, a soft, amused hiss escaping him. Ah, so someone mourns. Yes, the figure replied, voice deep and measured, heavy with sorrow that weighed like iron. I mourn. He was among the finest Astartes, a beacon of light in the storm of Nihilus, and I, Lionel Johnson, will see his death avenged. A lion mourns a man? How quaint, Sukuna said. Shall we play then? Without hesitation, Sukuna lunged, claws slashing it in a ferocious storm. Each strike meant to carve through flesh, armor, and bone alike. The lion met him with disciplined precision, his sword cutting arcs through the air, his shield absorbing blows that would have shattered mountains. Sparks erupted where Sukuna's claws met the unyielding barrier, each strike bouncing back, shaking Sukuna's arms but leaving the lion unscathed. Still, Sukuna attacked and eventually found an opening. He landed several devastating dismantles into the lion's flesh before grabbing and throwing him into the monastery itself. The impact shattered the dome of the magnificent structure, sending stone and debris raining across the courtyard. Sukuna followed, descending into the monastery only to find this so-called lion was perfectly fine. His flesh bled, but it did not slow him. If anything, Sukuna swore he saw amusement flicker across the lion's face. The lion shook out his limbs and gestured for the King of Curses to attack. Sukuna obliged him. Their battle led them deeper into the Arx Angelicum. Sukuna struck with blinding speed and curse techniques, seeking to break the lion's guard, while the lion maneuvered with the elegance and grace of a mastered duelist, striking whenever he could. The clash soon became a storm of destruction. Sukuna's dismantle and cleave tore through pillars and statues, leaving corridors shredded where servants and blood angels had sought refuge. Yet every blow against the lion's armor and shield were absorbed or deflected. Stone crumbled, stained glass windows shattered, fires erupted, the monastery trembled, and yet the lion still stood. Sukuna's attacks became more vicious, a blur of claws, yet the lion adapted, taking every blow, moving with terrifying grace. With a massive backhand of the shield, the lion sent Sukuna crashing through the monastery's walls. Marble and debris rained down as Sukuna smashed into the monastery's bottom floor with bone-jarring impact, multiple wounds opening across his chest, arms, and torso. He rose, regenerating through the injuries almost as quickly as they appeared, eyes alight with a burning hatred. The lion was not far behind him. Almost faster than he recovered, the battle resumed. Sukuna's speed and regeneration made him relentless, but the Primarch's strength, skill, and resolve kept him firmly in control. Sukuna roared. Who was this being? How could he rival him? Sukuna would show him why he was the king of curses. His claws began tearing faster through the air. Each strike meant to cleave the lion in half. But the lion spun and twisted, avoiding each strike with elegance. The strikes instead carved deep gouges into the shattered stone of the Arx Angelicum. Sukuna lashed again, a cyclone of slashes, slicing apart even more marble columns that survived the Tyranid invasion. Statues shattered under his fury, their wings raining down like broken feathers. Yet every dismantle, every cleave that should have ended him was blocked, absorbed, or sent bouncing back by the lion's unyielding shield. Sukuna staggered back from the force, claws skittering across stone, eyes narrowing in even more frustration. Then the lion advanced, deliberate, methodical, his green armor gleaming through the dust and smoke. He struck with fealty, each cut testing Sukuna, each clash sending tremors through the crumbling walls. Sukuna's grin faltered for the first time as fealty, the lion's sword, cut through his hand and impaled him. Blood mixed with dust and ash as the wound brought Sukuna to his knees. He felt his legs weaken and blood dripped down his chest. Yet, the King of Curses still rose, regenerating as always. But a realization began to settle in his stomach. He was losing. Sukuna, driven by this new feeling of despair, attacked yet again, this time faster than thought, claws aimed for the lion's head. But the Primarch dodged with silent calm, stepping aside as if reading Sukuna's body before it moved. Then, with sudden, terrifying speed, he seized Sukuna by the face, fingers gripping with ungodly strength. Sukuna hissed, struggling, but the lion's power was absolute. With a roar of effort, he swung, smashing Sukuna through the remaining monastery pillars, then released him with so much momentum that it sent Sukuna spiraling upwards. Stone, metal, and fire exploded around Sukuna as he erupted from the already ruined dome of the Arx Angelicum. He tumbled through the air, claws outstretched, slicing at nothing but the wind. The ground suddenly rose up to meet him as he crashed back into the courtyard, impact cracking the stone beneath him. Multiple wounds blooming across his body. Pain flared, yet even through it, he grinned. But he knew, with every inch of his being, that brute force alone would not and could not win this fight. He would have to escalate even further. He would have to use domain expansion. Pain, blood, and fury mixed in Sukuna's eyes as he staggered back to his feet. The red wasteland itself seemed to tremble in anticipation. He flexed his talons, black energy coiling, teeth bared, readying the ultimate technique. The monastery beyond now lay in ruins, statues smashed, walls destroyed, pillars reduced to rubble. Lionel Johnson stood among the carnage, his green armor damaged, burnt, and dented in several places, but still majestic to behold. Shield and sword gleaming, poised for the next blow. The two combatants faced each other, the world itself holding its breath, as Sukuna prepared to tear reality apart and the lion prepared to meet him head on. The sky began to darken. In an instant, the air itself seemed to warp and twist. Sukuna raised both his hands, and he gathered a swath of curse energy. Then, the world shuddered. Domain expansion! Malevolent shrine! A shrine erupted from nowhere, splitting reality like rotten cloth, and forcing itself into existence. Its foundations were not built, but bled into ball soil. Obsidian stone rising jagged and crooked, carved with faces screaming in eternal torment. Skulls spilled from its gates in endless cascades, clattering into dunes that drank them up like water. Blood wept from cracks in the air, pooling into rivers that reflected only horror. At the heart of this profane temple, Sukuna spread his arms wide, raising as if to crown himself Emperor of Damnation. His voice was low, mocking, reverberating with hunger. Let's begin. And with that whisper, the shrine came to life. The rules of the domain exerted themselves at once. Absolute, merciless, inescapable. Anything Sukuna willed to be cut would be cut. Whether armored, flesh, or forged in faith, reality itself was his prey. The fortress monastery was the first to fall. Its grand spires and vaulted ceilings, monuments to 10,000 years of devotion, disintegrated in an instant. The ground itself split open as Sukuna's spectral cleavers swept outwards, carving ball sands into checkerboards of ruin. Servants and serfs trapped within the monastery screamed, their cries drowned by the endless slicing storm. Blood angels, mighty sons of Sanguinius, were annihilated without resistance. Their ceramite armor peeled apart, their bodies reduced to crimson mist. In moments, what had stood as a fortress for millennium was reduced to ruin and silence, save for the echo of Sukuna's laughter echoing across his shrine. The shrine cut everything. That was its law, and it had forced it upon this new reality. Everything except him. The lion still stood. His emerald armor gleamed even amid the storm of spectral slashes. His shield raised to parry the onslaught. Sparks cascaded off its surface as dozens of malevolent shrine slashes met divine ceramite. Some strikes tore shallow gashes across his chest and arms, blood pooling where iron met cursed steel. Pain shot through him, but the Primarch's composure never wavered. Each breath was measured, every moment precise, a hunter amid the chaos. The lion had to dodge and redirect constantly, sliding across the red waste, leaping over collapsing pillars, deflecting strikes with the Emperor's shield, and still, the sheer volume of attacks chipped and damaged even his legendary armor. And then, lightning fast, the tide shifted. The lion moved, faster than Sukuna could track, a streak of emerald and gold. He closed the gap as if time itself bent to his will. A thunderclap split the world as the lion's shield slammed into Sukuna's chest, the force cracking his ribs like they were made of paper. But worse still, the shield bent the very law of the domain. The hundreds of slashes unleashed by the malevolent shrine moments before rebounded, crashing back into Sukuna in a storm of his own making. The explosion tore the battlefield apart. Sand, stone, and steel ripped skywards as both titans were hurled away. Sukuna clawed his way out of a dune, ribs knitting together with a sickening crack. He spat blood and grinned, wondering if this emerald giant had mastered reverse curse techniques himself. Across the wasteland, the lion rose from shattered masonry. He was close enough, well within 200 meters. Sukuna readied himself, the distance giving him room to call forth Malevolent Shrine once again. But the lion was already on him, relentless, precise, and unstoppable. Damn him. The Primarch seized him by both wrists, emerald gauntlets locking down like iron shackles. Sukuna twisted violently, his talons scraping across the lion's arms, cursed energy flaring against ceramite. But the lion's grip did not break. With controlled grace, he drove his knee upwards. The strike landed like a hammer. Bone shattered, lungs collapsed, and blood erupted. Sukuna released a guttural gasp, his blood spraying across the Primarch's armor as his chest caved in under the force. His regeneration screamed to keep pace, curse energy burning just to hold himself together. The lion then launched a vicious backhand with terrifying accuracy. The strike caught him squarely across the jaw, sending him hurtling backwards with bone-shattering force. He tore across the red planet. Dust and rubble followed him like a trail of ruin, marking the destructive power of the blow. Sukuna finally landed as he sprawled across the red wasteland, exhaustion radiating from every movement. Across the wasteland, the lion still advanced. His armor gleamed faintly beneath streaks of blood and marble dust, every dent and scratch a testament to the onslaught he had endured. Wounds already sealed by unbreakable durability, he moved with the calm certainty of a predator, eyes locked onto the broken bleeding demon sprawled across from him. His sword hummed faintly in his grip, the shield poised like a bastion of immovable judgment. The lion's gaze hardened, mourning Dante and his blood angels, yet burning with vengeance, every fiber of his being declaring the same truth. This fight was nearing its end, and when it resumed, Sukuna would know the full weight of a Primarch. Interesting. Sukuna thought to himself, what is he? The lion slowly closed the gap between the two. Your arrogance will be undoing. Every strike I land will carry the memory of those you have slain. Arrogance, memory. I prefer to think of it as artistry, Sukuna replied, his mouth dripping with a mixture of blood and anticipation. But I do enjoy the theater of a worthy opponent. They both paused, sizing each other up one last time. a fragile calm before the inevitable storm. Then, almost in unison, they charged. The ground cracked beneath their feet, shockwaves rippling through the red world. Dust, shards of stone, and embers erupted around them as claws met steel, and Fealty's pale blade hummed with lethal intent. The lion's mind sharpened, calculating each step, each swing. Sukuna's attacks came in torrents, dismantle and cleave, carving through the air. Yet each strike against Fealty or the Emperor's shield was yet again deflected or absorbed, sparks raining as curse energy met unending strength. Sukuna marveled even as he fought. He is faster, stronger, more precise than anything I've ever faced. And yet, there's a weight to him, a purpose. The lion may have been thinking the same thing as his voice rang out across the chaos. Do not underestimate me, demon. Your death draws near. For the Emperor. They clashed again and again. Steel against claw, Primarch physiology against cursed energy, demigod versus demon. But Sukuna suddenly felt a strange tug, a shift in the world that he did not understand. He blinked, his hands ready to strike, yet something invisible began to pull at him. His instinct screamed, but his mind couldn't comprehend what was happening. What is this? He thought. The pull was sudden, violent, unrelenting. Before he could react, the battlefield, the shattered monastery, the lion himself, everything dissolved around him. In a heartbeat, Sukuna's body shimmered, tearing free from Baal's crimson sky without warning. Sukuna returned to Shibuya, tasting blood on his lips, senses alight. Far away, he felt Makura summoned. He did not understand how he had been ripped away from Baal, but his curiosity about the Emperor, about the Green Warrior, lingered in his mind. The fight would continue, but in another world, another time, and Sukuna, still bloodied, grinned. Well, fellas, I hope you enjoyed that. This is a new concept that I'm trying in this video. As both an avid fan of 40k and various animes, I wanted to bring my love for both universes to my channel. Whether this becomes a mainstay really depends on how well this video does, so leave a like if you enjoyed it, and a comment on what you'd like to see next. I would love to visit other universes, like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and as evident today, various other animes, including JJK. Now, I don't have to necessarily always do this narrative approach. I could do a straight up power scaling video like I usually do with my 40k videos. There are simply so many characters out there waiting to be power scaled by yours truly. Obviously, this video wasn't exactly lore accurate. It's a fictional scenario I created where Sukuna arrives sometime after the devastation of Baal, and somehow the lion turns up. Not exactly canon, but neither is Sukuna arriving in 40k. Once again, this video was kind of an experiment. I don't really plan to use the narrative approach that often with my videos, but as someone who likes to write in his spare time, I thought, why not? Why not write a narrative with Sukuna killing Space Marines, including Dante?
Oh, I hate you.
I had a lot of fun writing it, especially the parts where the lion backhands Sukuna and grabs him by the face and throws him through multiple walls. I thought that was really cinematic and cool as hell. If you didn't like it, I'm sorry. I'm really not the best writer, but I'm trying my best. Before I end this video, I would love to shout out my growing squad of Patreon and YouTube members. Ryania Basket, Soft Use, Omar, Ritter S, Impossy Paul, Musty, Keydri, Nico149, and William Strong. Thanks for supporting me, helping me figure out this video, and hopefully we can continue doing some more silly anime crossovers in the future. Once again, if this video does well, I'll probably continue this series and even branch out further than before. I have a great follow-up in mind, the Emperor vs. Yhwach from Bleach, but we'll see if this video actually does well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, it is my first attempt at ever doing a narrative, so if my voices were a little silly, I apologize. But I would like to add that no voice changers were used in this video. Those were all your favorite cow's voices, including Sukuna's evil one. I hope you guys enjoyed them. But that does it for the first installment of Cows Crossovers. As always, my favorite milk drinkers, stay milked, and I'll see you in the next video.